Welcome csc103 class, Intro to Computing. We're going to do some intro to programming. We're going to be using the Python programming language, and we're going to be using this online tool. It's an online integrated development environment, IDE, called Trinket, and it's one of the few that allows you to use these turtle modules and has a preview area so you could kind of get a visual representation of what you're doing when you start programming. And I'm going to go to the instructions here. Here's the PDF instructions, which may or may not change. Now, the last time this was done, it was called exercise 10. So that's the way the other videos that I have for Trinket are, or for some of these turtles are. So I'm going to keep it at exercise 10. But just to I hadn't recorded an introduction one, so that's what I'm doing right now. So we're going to talk about going to Trinket and kind of getting used to what the environment is and looking at some samples, and then we'll start kind of our own little exercise where we just draw some squares. So it'll be fairly simple, and that's the idea, is to keep it simple. So we're going to go to trinket.io, and now you can sign up for a free account right now, and then once you do, you could log in. So when you can sign up here, you could sign up here, or if you're not ready to do that yet, if you just want to check it out, and I'll just check it out right now, you could come down and check out some of the code and look at some of the examples. Here's one right here. You can see the first thing we're going to look at is going to kind of do something like that. And this will be your environment. You'll have code and you'll have a little preview window. You'll also have a console, which we'll talk about. And I'll talk about some of that in this kind of introduction. So I'll break this video up in two parts. So what you can do, even before you sign in and create an account, you can create an account at any time. And again, it's free. You just need an email. If you go down to Python with turtles, skip over this block stuff. You don't need to be doing this block stuff. That's for grade school kind of stuff. But if you come down to Python with turtles, you could kind of take a look at the sample. They have something called an hour of code, and they have a lot of examples you can kind of look at. And they even have a video that you can start off with. So you could play the video here, and I won't play it for very long because it'll be weird watching a video in a video. But it'll give you a little introduction, kind of what I'm doing. You can watch it full screen. And then when you go down here, they have run your first program. And that's kind of what I was showing before. And I have this little area on the side here that you could close up for now and kind of get a full screen version. And you'll see you'll have this is Python code here, and there's a little preview window, and they have a run button. So every time you want to run it, it'll start it over again. You can see these turtles go very fast. They create 3 circles, and they make a green one, a blue one, a yellow one, and they write some text here, and then you see the turtle at the end, and that's what all this code does. So this interprets all this code and does that. And if we take a look at the code here, just to start, they have import turtle. We're going to have to use that to use this turtle stuff. Because if not, if you're just starting out with Python programming, you'll do a lot of math and strings, which is just text, and you'll output messages and math problems and calculations and things like that. And it won't be a whole lot of fun in the beginning. But this is a little more fun because you have a visual representation. So that's why we're going to use turtle, just to get used to how functions work, to how instructions work, to how variables work. We'll be using loops, all kinds of neat things we'll be using from the Python language, but we'll be able to see it in this little preview window, and you could test it out, and if it doesn't work, you could fix it. So that's what's nice about doing this. And just to run through the code real quick, we have to import turtle. There's a turtle module that we'll use that will allow us to create this kind of screen. There's also a screen, this background screen that we're working on, that you can change colors, but right now it's just kind of white, and it's creating these kind of turtle shapes and circles and different things on screen. And the first thing we have here is this is a function, and basically it's a set of instructions that are meant for each turtle, and it's kind of generic. That's why it just says turtle.color, turtle.fillColor, and then we're going to make a specific turtle called Tommy. The turtle will be an instance of the turtle module or the turtle class, and we can give them different names. They call them Tommy, Tyler, different things that start with a T, and that's what we're going to do. Now we have one general function here that basically tells the turtle to draw a circle. And also it takes some what are called arguments. These things are arguments. It says, first of all, what turtle are you going to use? And in all of the cases, we're just using the Tommy turtle because that's the one we're going to create. But then it says, well, what color are you going to make it? So for each time, that way we could change the color. We could make a green circle, a blue circle, and a yellow circle. Another argument we could give it is the size. We're going to give a size of 50. 50 is actually the radius, so it's actually double 50. And then the last 2 numbers here are x and y. That's where it starts. The x is going across, and the y is going up and down. And 0, 0 is the coordinate for this kind of Python world in the middle. So the blue circle actually starts at 0, 0. So if you watch each one again, you can see they kind of start at the bottom middle. So the blue one is the only one that starts at 0, 0. And you can see the blue one here starts at 0, 0. The green one starts at 25, 0. It's a little further over. And the yellow one starts at negative 25, the other side of 0, over here. So these are basically calling the functions and basically plugging in the arguments that they're looking for. And then it's running all these instructions here. And there's some things that you don't even see. It's lifting its pen up, it's putting its pen down, it's beginning fill, ending fill, all that kind of stuff. And it's happening really fast. And you'll see there's even a speed here. It says Tommy.speed. Tommy is our turtle that we create from the turtle class. And we also give it a shape of a turtle. Otherwise, it looks like a little arrow. And there's a speed here, and I'll show you where you can even go and change that. If I'll go back to my instructions here, and number 2 says go to the Start Learning. There's a Start Learning place, so I just scroll down. Either way, when you get to the visual introduction of an hour of code, that's where I'm at right now. And we're doing some of this stuff right now. And well, actually, I'll get to this stuff about the speed in a second. But let's do what it says here. Let's keep following this. You created the 3 circles, and now I said let's change it to RGB because we've been talking about RGB for RGB color. Instead of green, yellow, blue, let's change it to RGB. So I'm going to make the first one red, and the second one green, and I'll make the third one blue. Okay, so now we have our RGB, and we could just run it and see how it comes out. There's red, green, blue. And the other thing I mentioned in the instructions is, as we go down here, we can change the green. Since it's kind of a dark green, we could use a lime green. You could use the word lime green, or you could put in your hex number of 00FF00, which will give it a little bit brighter green. So let's try that. Let's go down in here. Instead of green, we'll still have to do it in quotes. We'll put a pound sign, and then we'll do 00FF00, and that should make just kind of a bright RGB green. I'll run it, and there it is. It made it kind of a little bit brighter green. So you could put hex numbers in here. You can also put what are called strings. Strings are just text, red, blue, green, or lime green, as long as lime green is a standard kind of color. Now, as we go down here, we won't worry about the text stuff just yet, but that's all you're supposed to do for this. And also, the last thing that you want to check out here is checking out the speed. It says change the speed to 3. Now, you might not know what speed to change it to, but you could put it here, and if I change it to 3 and I run it, you can see everything goes a lot slower, and it's a little easier to see what it's doing now. Everything went a lot slower, and you might say, well, how would I know what speeds to use? Well, that's why I put this on here. If you go to python.org, open this in a new tab. If I go to python.org and I go to docs up top, or I think I could also go to documentation, and you could go to docs for Python 3.x. And what you're going to look up here are global module index. These are all the modules that are inside Python. And you can see there's tons of them. So if you go all the way down and you find the turtle under T, here's everything you need to know about the turtle module. So if there's anything you need to know, it's here. It's not, there's a lot of stuff here. And you'll find that there's a turtle class and a screen class. And you'll also, here's all stuff about the turtles. And here's speed. It's right in the first section here, all about turtle motion, all these kind of things that the turtle can do. And there's speed. And if you click on speed, it'll tell you, oh, fastest is 0, there's 10, there's 6, there's 3, and there's 1. So I don't know why it uses 500, but basically anything other than other than these numbers is going to go real fast. So although I would just stick to these. So we slowed it down to 3. 6 is the way they normally is. If you don't put any kind of speed, it'll be at 6. It'll be kind of in the middle. So they had it really fast. We slowed it down just a little bit, but you could always find this stuff. And again, this is under the, just go to Python, just go Python turtle and you'll find this really quick, but always have links for it. So that's all we said to do there, is just to change the speed. And then also it says change the starting point for the red and blue circles from 25 and negative 25 to 50 and negative 50, and run it again. So all I'm mentioning to do here is to just kind of spread them apart a little bit. They're kind of stacked on top of each other. So we'll leave the blue one was in the middle, but now the green one's in the middle. We'll leave that one in the middle because that's at 0, 0 for its x and y. But instead of negative 25, or instead of 25 here, I'll put 50. And instead of negative 25, I'll put negative 50. So that should spread them out. So I'm going to hit run, and now what we should have, the green one should still be in the middle, but they'll be spread out a little bit more. Just because we changed the x. This x got changed to 50, this x got changed to -50, and they still have a y value of 0. So that's all we're doing, is just checking this out right now, just to see how we can just modify the code, run it, and see the output. I already mentioned the documentation here, so that's what this mentions. There's also some things where you could change the shape of the turtle that's here. So if I went back to here, you know, we had shape turtle. If I did arrow, if I just put in arrow and I ran it, you can see it just does an arrow. So there's different ways you could use the turtle too. You don't have to use the shape of a turtle, though it's more fun to use the turtle. And if you don't do anything, I think it just does a little wedge kind of thing. Like if I took this thing out completely, I think it just does a little generic kind of arrow to do that. So that's the default that it uses if you don't specify a shape of a turtle. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scroll back up here, and I could even just go back to the main trinket. But after you go in here, if you want to sign up, I'm going to go in here and you could sign up, and I'll just put my name in here. And I'll sign up. Now, it may send a verification email when you get signed up to save things, but for now, you should be able to just start working right away. Now, when you go in here, what we're going to do next is we're going to create a new trinket. And then I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to go through the whole exercise of Turtles 10, but I'll just get you started, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll do part 2. But what you're going to do is you're going to create a new trinket, and you're going to see Python 3, and we are going to be working in Python 3, but in order to save it, you have to use this one. So we're going to use Python. It'll still be Python 3. We're still going to use Python 3 code, so don't worry about that. But just use the regular Python so that we can save our trinkets. Otherwise, you can't save the trinkets. So you are going to use regular Python when you do this. And you're going to have an untitled thing here. And the first one you're going to do is you're just going to call it 10 turtle squares. You could do that. You could put dashes in there. And you're just going to name it right now. It's going to be in a little file called main.py, and this is where you're going to start. Now, before I even start anything, and then I'll take a break before I even start the turtles, what I just want you to point out here is typically when you're working in Python in any other IDE or any other Python course, they'll start you off with things like, okay, let's do this. Let's use a print function, and in parentheses, we'll do print, and then in parentheses, we'll type in hello world. They'll do that kind of stuff. And they'll say, well, this is a string because it's in quotes, so it's just words. And then if you run it, they'll say, look at that, isn't that fun? And this is a console. Remember, this isn't your little turtle environment. This is a console. So that's typically what you'll do when you learn Python in the beginning. And then you might do things, and you can make this bigger. So just so if you get used to this little area here, this is the save button. This is where you could change this name, I believe. If you spelled it wrong or did something, you could change that name. You can make the font size bigger of the code, which I'll do so it's easier for you to see. They'll be like, okay, now we're going to make a variable. Instead of printing something, we'll just say message equals hello world. And they'll say, oh, it has to be a string, so let's put quotes around it. And now, because you're printing the variable. You don't have to print the message anymore. You don't have to print hello world. You print the message, so that you could basically change the message here, and it'll keep printing out whatever the message is. So that variable will link up to what's here, and then you could do that, and you could be like, oh wow, there it is. That's pretty fun. And you could say hello trinket, and you can run it, and it'll say hello trinket, and isn't that a lot of fun? And then it'll be like, oh, you could do math. Let's make a variable x equals 2. Y equals 3, something like that. You can use variables that represent other things. We'll be doing that. And then you can print out, let's print out x times 3. And then we'll do that. And there's hello trinket, and it's running through all these things, and now it's printing out. And actually, I should put x times y, because that's more fun. And it's the same thing, because it could use 3 or y. And now it's printing out, it's doing math. And notice we don't need quotes when we're doing numbers. These are strings because they're words. These are numbers. They don't have quotes around them. And also variables don't have quotes around them. So you'll learn all that kind of stuff. But that's boring. That's why working with turtles will be more fun. So we're not gonna do this stuff yet. But realize we will be using the console a little bit when we have input. So you will see the console occasionally to do some input to kind of work with it, but this stuff isn't a lot of fun. That's why the turtles are a little more fun to, especially if you're new to programming. So I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to start off by doing import turtle and importing the turtle module. And then when we run this, it'll kind of bring up this turtle world right here, and here's our console down here that we were just looking at. So, and there's nothing in our turtle world yet because we haven't created a turtle or put an instance of a turtle on our preview. And actually, I'm going to stop here, and then I'll just work through the exercise for part 2 because I just wanted to give you a little start. But again, just to review, we kind of went through this thing here. You know, go into trinket.io. You could start an account, or even if you don't start an account, you could kind of mess around with some of this stuff. You don't have to hand in this stuff. We do this in class, but you don't have to hand in this stuff yet where you're just changing that little thing where it draws the circles. You don't have to do that yet. You could just kind of practice with that. You could check out the documentation under python.org or just search Python turtles. You'll find it real quick. And then for the main part, this is the part creating the squares that we're going to do. So this is part 2. The part on the second sheet of your notes is where we're actually going to, after you create a login and you have an account, a free account, then we'll start working on our squares there. And again, it's pretty simple stuff, so it won't take long. It's just simple instructions we're going to give, but that's what we're going to do now. So for part 1, we just kind of got introduced to the Trinket environment, and for part 2, we're going to actually start coding and start drawing some squares in here in our little preview area.